Stephen C. Reinhart explained in his article, Never Say Anything I Can Say, the steps you can do to teach a math lesson that are more effective and beneficial to your students. Reinhart points out that if you want your students to actually learn math, they need to explain the math and you need to listen. Through an 8-step process, I learned different strategies I can do as a teacher to ensure my students are actually learning math and benefiting from my lessons through their own involvement. Step 1 is breaking insecurities. A lot of the time, students are shy, they're insecure, they're self-conscious, and because of this, they avoid answering questions out of fear of being judged or fear of being wrong. So to avoid this or to conquer this, you can start slowly. So begin by asking the best possible questions that you can. Plan these before, but then be willing to adapt them throughout your lessons. And then you can also use different strategies to encourage your students to be involved. I think one of the best ones is classroom community and making your students feel comfortable in your classroom, and creating that bond kind of starts to encourage involvement in lessons. Step 2 is creating a plan. You have to evaluate old strategies that you've learned before and adapt them to your students' needs. Not every typical strategy is going to work for every group, and just because it's what you know doesn't mean it's the best option, and this is also best done slowly. Examples of step 2 include asking students to explain their reasoning, avoiding lecture because they tend to lose attention when you start lecturing. Be patient with your students because not every student's going to pick up the material as quickly as others. Step 3 is explaining your reasoning for asking these questions. A lot of the time students are kind of confused on why you're asking such weird or random questions, so you can explain to them that you're using this as an evaluation method. You're seeing if you can continue to move forward with the lesson or if you need to go back to some material and recover it. This is also another great way to build that classroom community because you can encourage your students by sharing that you ask these questions because you find value in their ideas and you find value in their thoughts. Step 4 is teaching for success. This kind of goes off the idea that there's no dumb questions. If you want your students to be involved in discussion, you can't make them feel stupid for asking questions that are incorrect or that you deem inappropriate. And it's also not okay for you to force your students to answer. If they clearly don't know the answer, just move on and ask a different student. Don't make a big deal out of it. The overall goal of this step is to not embarrass the students for their ideas because it could potentially stop them from participating again. Step 5 is being non-judgmental of a response or a comment. This step kind of piggybacks off step 4, so don't embarrass your students, but also don't overpraise your students for their correct answers. So when it's okay to say, like, I like how you use this strategy, good job, but don't overpraise them because when you do, other students begin to feel more fearful of answering wrong or not being as good as the student who got all the praise. Step 6 is try not to repeat the students' answers. It's almost like the students are teaching you math, so you really want the students to be speaking and learning from each other. When the teachers reiterate or rephrases a student's answer, other students begin to tone out and stop paying attention because they just know that you're going to give them the right answer anyways. Step 7 is this the right answer? This is the most common question students ask, and a simple yes or no answer gives students exactly what they want, and after they hear yes or no, they tone out any other explanation you give them, and they don't care about what you have to say. So to avoid this, ask students to explain their process or their thoughts, and then if they're not on the right track, kind of ask them questions that get them on to the right ideas. Step 8 is participation is not optional. Not every student's going to be as willing as others to participate, so there's some strategies you can use to encourage the entire class to participate. Think, pair, share, I personally think is the best because it involves everyone. So you're thinking by yourself, you're pairing with your partner, and then you're coming back in for a whole group discussion where you share your ideas. Avoid only accepting one response. Let all of the students get their ideas out. So once one student shares, maybe take a couple seconds and see if another person wants to share before moving on. Avoid answering your own questions. The idea of asking a question is for the students to answer, not for you. So don't answer your own questions. And then avoid targeting one student to answer the question. So instead of saying, Sandy, can you explain to me why 2 plus 2 is 4? Just say, can someone in the class explain to me why 2 plus 2 is 4? And then hand signals are a great way to check for understanding. So thumbs up is I completely understand. Thumbs to the side is I somewhat understand, and then thumbs down is I have no idea what's going on. The main idea I took away from this article is that most of the times you just have to adjust your math lessons out of the conventional or the normal ways that you've learned. Not every class is going to be the same, not every student's going to be the same, and by making small adjustments to the style of your lesson, you can drastically change how your students learn.